Hey, Pair listeners, we want to tell you about our fourth annual summer workshops coming up in July. That's Friday, July 23rd and Saturday, July 24th. You don't want to miss this. We're covering everything from mental health to personal finance to relationships, basically everything you need to crush it in life. So if you're anywhere from between 18 and 30, we would love to see you there. We'd love to connect, grow, learn with you. Our Instagram handle is @pair.kc. Again, that's @pair.kc. And our website is mypaircommunity.com. Check us out on mypaircommunity.com. Register. We can't wait to see you there, guys. July Pair Workshops. We'll see you soon.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode in our summer series of just diving into the different stories of young adults, people in their 20s, people who are around my age who are doing something with their life. And it's like everyone's journey looks different, but to me, it's so fascinating to hear how different journeys and different people's lives and stories and the circumstances get them to certain places. And throughout this whole process of interviewing people, I've had the honor and the privilege to get to know people who I didn't know very well, even better, than to hear their stories and to kind of hear their passion and their motivation and just kind of their heart talk about, their dreams or what they feel like they want to do with their lives has been really, really cool. So one of those really awesome people that I've gotten to know better because of the podcast and because of just this space has been Michael Cooper, who is here with me. Michael, say hello to everyone.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Let's go. It's going to be good. I think you guys will really get a lot out of what Michael has to say. And just, he's such a creative. He's like a creative being in this room. And just hearing him talk, hearing him share, you can just tell that he's got a lot of just ideas and things that he's working through and navigating through and figuring out.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of people in your family who did this, or are you like, okay?
Well, I think that's a good way to start. As being a creative being, I think a lot of times it's hard for us to assign metrics to that.
Yeah.
And how involved you should actually get in that, and how that happens with your process of creativity. It's like kind of, when does that come to fruition, and when should you start to kind of realize that these are your natural traits? It's kind of like when I was talking about my knee injury.
Yeah.
I work a 9 to 5, one that I worked really hard to get. And it took a lot of creative endeavors to make this blossom, realize that I had potential to be a scientist, and just really pinpoint some of the things about myself to realize that, yes, I am a creative, but there's a lane that this has to kind of fit into.
Totally.
So you could keep the ball rolling as a creative.
Yeah. And man, we're going to dive more into that because I think that is so true, because I have friends, like I wouldn't call myself, you got to be creative when you're a teacher, honestly. It's like constantly coming up with new ideas to reach kids and connect with them and reach them at wherever their little minds are at, as well as like coming up with ideas to engage students in your curriculum when we have to teach them. But I would feel like more friends like you and others that you guys will hear their stories as well, who like, you're at home late at night, listening to audio and like mixing things and like creating things like that. And I'm asleep. Okay. So that's the type of person I am. I love creating, but I don't personally have that dedication that some of people like Michael have to create at that degree. And so I'm really excited to jump into this conversation with you guys about where this has all taken Michael as he's discovered that and figured out his lane and trying to work that out as he's understood that more and more about himself. But before we do that, you guys know we have to do our this or that's to get started. So Michael, are you ready?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. We are going to start with our this or that. All right. Number 1, Michael, would you rather be able to rewind time or be able to pause time?
That's a difficult one for me.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
I don't think rewinding time is something that for somebody who's trying to develop is you know, valuable as kind of being in that bliss of just not knowing where your actions are going to take you, you know, leaning towards making good actions, not bad ones. But if you were to try to rewind time, then I think it's kind of like you could start to have that butterfly effect. And then you might not see some of those difficulties that are actually shaping you or confusion, you know, working something that you don't appreciate or you shouldn't appreciate because it's probably not what you were cut out to do. So I would have to default to pausing time.
Okay.
Just to kind of break through the multiverse. I didn't know that was going to get that deep because I think with the multiverse, you have, I think there's so many things going on at once. And maybe if you pause time, you could keep yourself from getting ahead of time. I think if you're familiar with multiverse theory, there's things that are
I don't know
happening or have already happened that you know you can predict because you might be taking in subliminal messaging, and then all of a sudden that thing happens.
And is that multiverse versus the universe?
Versus because the universe is what
one versus
we
many.
think is happening. The majority of us think is happening. It's just one thing constantly happening. But the multiverse is obviously there's different like atomic, you know, like I don't know, where are my science majors here? You know, there's different
like things happening at once.
Quantum physics.
Okay.
Quantum physics.
I was like,
you have like your like
kind of like Marvel.
Yeah, all your different
that's the only
phases of quantum physics.
Yeah,
it's very
totally.
Marvel-like.
Yes.
And so I think if you pause time, you can get out of, you know, one layer where subatomic particles exist, and you can, you know, actually either stay in that layer and realize that you were taking in subliminal messaging, or that could be how you decide that, okay, you're actually, that's how you find out you're in a layer. And then now you can choose. You can either take this multiverse and step into a different one, or you could stay where you're at.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yo, Michael, you went deep on that one. Okay. I think I would agree with the pausing time.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like when you're able to pause and take things in, because you're right, things are happening so fast all the time around you. And so to be able to pause sometimes, I just think about moments in my life like graduating or like maybe a time when I'm teaching a lesson or whatever. If I'm able to pause and like take an account for like what's going on all around me, I just feel like it would be a much more rich experience and you'd be able to take in a lot more. So at rewinding time, I feel like definitely, I just no. It's definitely not the better option. Okay, we're gonna hit you with another one. This one's a little lighter.
Okay,
you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather have a pet kangaroo or a pet koala?
Whew, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I like koalas actually. I just, you know, I had this brief part of time where I thought that I was like into Stitch, the character. Because
like Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah.
Is he a koala?
He's based off of a koala.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I like kind of revisited that a little bit. Just like I said, I've had downtime. I had a knee injury, and so I was trying to figure out how I could get the movie. I don't have Disney Plus, and I was just like, "What is Stitch?" And I found myself Googling.
That is interesting.
And he was based off of a
Inspired
koala.
by a koala.
Yeah, they're really cool.
That's interesting. So you're going with a koala versus a kangaroo?
Kangaroos, to me, there's just too much complexity, like to take in as just one animal. Yeah,
they are fascinating.
Yeah,
they are like even just like the Joey, like even the baby just living in the pouch. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I am going to have to agree with you again, only because koalas are my favorite animal. Koalas are my favorite land animal, and then octopus are my favorite ocean animal.
Oh, wow.
I'm not really sure why. I do know in like maybe middle school, I had to do like maybe it was elementary school. I had to do like an extensive research project about an animal and like write a big informative paper about them and do lots of research.
Mhm.
I did that in grade school, I feel like. And that's why I learned to love koalas. That's the one reason I want to
But
go to
what's a
Australia.
trait that the average person wouldn't know about a koala?
A koala can only eat eucalyptus leaves, pretty much, and those are poisonous to a lot of other animals. And they sleep like at least 20 hours a day.
Wow.
Which I love, because I love to nap, and I just was like, oh my God, this is like my animal here, sleeping all day. But they're actually, so I've heard, not very kind. They're not like friendly animals. They kind of sleep a lot, making them maybe a little more grumpier than the normal. And then they just eat the same thing.
I can see that
all the time. So,
that's really.
But I still want to see them because I love
really
their ears. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then octopus are my favorite. I did my whole thematic unit in college about octopus, learning about them, and they are some of the most intelligent animals of all time.
Oh yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. I think that's one of the things I love teaching my students about a lot, because they blow my mind with all the stuff they know about animals.
Well, we were just talking about snakes. Like my fascination before this. And I think when we start to just, get older, we forget about the just regular things that are already here in the world and how interesting they are.
Yeah.
Animals are like
totally
up there.
Yeah, they really are. It's just
yeah,
mind-blowingly amazing.
This
one kind of feeds into that, so I'm going to ask it, and then we'll go ahead and jump into what we're going to be talking about today. But would you rather, last one, be able to talk to animals or be able to speak every language?
I would rather speak every language. I definitely can communicate with animals.
That's true.
On a frequency, so.
But I'm talking about Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle
talking to animals.
Yeah, I guess just because I've already had that sort of connection with animals. I heard a conversation the other day, how some people just don't take to dogs. It's just, they don't have that, that's definitely a trait.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the dog whisperer.
Yeah. So I could never appreciate the idea of somebody having something more profound than that, because it's it's already there in a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I would just lean towards the other one. Yeah.
Thought you'd rather speak every language.
Every language, totally. Even the constructed languages, like patois, the Jamaican language and stuff like that. It's broken English, That'd be incredible.
You could speak that. You could speak anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I would feel overwhelmed knowing every other language or every language. But I also know that it would be an incredible resource, an incredible tool. It would help me to communicate anywhere I was. But just to be different from you this one time, I'm going to say I would rather speak to animals because there's something, because I am so fascinated with them.
Yeah.
I feel like if I could just go underwater and just talk to these animals.
I didn't get that deep with
experience. I'm telling you. I don't know. I just feel like that would be such an incredible thing to have.
I mean, I'll relate to you. I guess, did you watch the Pokemon movie, the live action one?
No.
I thought it was very interesting.
What do you recommend?
I do. Even though the name kind of gives you it throws you for a loop. You're thinking it's all centered around Detective Pikachu, but
that is the name.
It's more like the ecosystem they live in, and they live in this world where they can understand the Pokemon. And Ash's big thing is that he literally talks English with Pikachu, while everybody else just kind of makes these noises with the Pokemon.
Exactly.
And so it's how
I would
can you
be speaking the language,
carry this animal with you every day, and you're developing a relationship.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think that would just be cool. Even if it were a week where I could just talk to animals.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty fascinating.
You'd have to go out of your way, request off to go to the zoo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll travel to different zoos.
Talk to animals now.
Do they really
Let's
like
use
the
that
zoo?
PTO.
Are they trying to get out of these cages, or do they really like it?
Come back, make a report.
Right. I've talked to them firsthand, and they don't like it here. Or they do. They love the kids. I don't know. Okay, so thank you for playing with me.
Yeah,
what do you guys say? Would you rather? Let me pull it out. Okay, would you rather, 1, be able to rewind time, or be able to pause time. 2, have a pet kangaroo or a pet koala. And lastly, be able to talk to animals or be able to speak every language. Be on the lookout in our Instagram. Follow the what's that called? The handle, pair.kc. Check this out. Look for it in the stories. I ask these would you rather questions. So let us know. Do you agree with Michael? Do you agree with me? What's your feeling? We'd love to hear back from you guys. Okay. Are you ready to jump into this?
Yeah, please. Totally.
All right. So you guys, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to jump right in. And you'll get to hear Michael's story and the things he's working through in life. And it's going to be fantastic. Hey, Kristen here, and I just wanted to take the time to introduce you to PAIR and tell you more about it, especially if you're new to this community or have just stumbled across this podcast. PAIR is an acronym that stands for Proactive, Accountable, Intentional, and Reflective. And we're actually a community that's been growing since 2018. We are cultivating a community of young adults like you and me who desire to be proactive, accountable, intentional, and reflective in life. This community invests in young adults by equipping you with practical knowledge and wisdom, which helps us to be successful and reach for our unique potential. We are a group that does not just connect to the podcast, but we also meet in person. We are from the KC area, and we meet together for events on a monthly basis. You can always stay in the loop on what's going on by visiting our website, www.mypaircommunity.com, and following us on Instagram @pair.kc. Please share and subscribe. Let your friends know that we're here, and we're so happy that you're a part of our group, you're a part of our community, and we look forward to learning more about you. All right, we're back, and we're just gonna, like I always say, jump right into it. So, Michael, can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, just like a little bit about your passion and just as a creative? Where that's taken you.
Yeah. I was the kid that was constantly taking the tools out of the toolbox and making a spot for them in my room. Just anything I could get my hands on to just understand things more. And I just love like working with my hands. Not in the same way that I guess you would think as like someone who works with their hands would say, like, you know, like working on ham radios and stuff like that. But like I had this stint of trying to like not make magic, but do like magic tricks like David Blaine, stuff like that. And so I got really good with like, you know, shuffling the deck. The idea of there are 52 cards in a deck, and it was like 4 queens and 4 kings. That whole idea of like learning systems and also being able to like use your, you know, physical, like your hands and stuff to like, you know, relate to that. Like, okay, I gotta like, you know, issue out these cards, get to this deck real quick. And so I think that that's like kind of like my core, and I've never departed from that. I found really early on that I had a passion for like audio electronics. This is when like Radio Shack was still a thing, Circuit City. And
Circuit City.
Yeah, so I grew up in church, and so I always would find my way back to the sound booth. And this is still when things are still very primitive. You know, you'd be visiting different churches, and ours in particular, we would use like a card table in the back, and there would be, it's kind of like how my desk is set up in the lab. Now I work in a lab. I found my way into science, and, you know, I think just STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and math, it's all kind of one. But it's like, you know, we just had like a card table, and then under it you would have like maybe like a small rack, I want to say, with your basic audio like recorders and, you know, your Tascam, I want to say, like your left and right little device. You would like sit on a table and record the pastor's sermon. So having to change the batteries out of those, you know, understanding the channels that the microphones go on, and what caused different frequencies. I ended up realizing by the time I graduated, I didn't have time, I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to go to college for, because that's how I was spending my time. And I didn't participate in like student government and things like that. And had it not been for audio, I would have never gone to college because I just have this very, strong drive to just say no. And oftentimes I get away with it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally.
yeah, so now we're here. I'm a small business owner, which kind of encompasses like all of the different lifestyles that I have. I like to call them lifestyles. Like I have a podcast. The host on there, we're really good friends. We go out to eat. Then I am starting to launch merchandise that I wholesale.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to school in the background. I got a degree in audio, and I just finished a degree in secondary education that's based in science.
Wow,
So,
good for you.
yeah, things are
That's
happening.
awesome. Totally. That's awesome. And
Uh-huh.
I do know one of the big things that you're also really working to cultivate
Mhm.
is your brand.
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a big one. I went to go pick up some like face scrubs the other day from a friend of mine who makes them, and it was interesting because we kind of like chat like whenever we do these meetups, and she was just like, Mike, when you get your store and you put this in there and do this or whatever, like I got to bring these face scrubs in, and I'm kind of like, how does that happen as rapid as I'm going right now, completing the degree in the secondary education, which I ended up realizing I'm a better fit at the moment in a legitimate lab. Like I took all these classes with people who are pre-med and stuff like that for a degree to teach middle schoolers,
Yeah.
And so with that and people in your ear reminding you of some of the things that you've loosely talked about throughout the years, and you've been making small wholesale orders and, selling them just to friends and family on Facebook, or taking a small percent of the stuff that you're ordering and then giving it to your friends who own a small business and trying to, buy shelf space and stuff like that. To be reminded, like, yeah, I want to sell my product in your store. It's just really, it starts to come to fruition a whole lot more, especially when you start to understand, how much retail space costs, or then what are the benefits of actually just doing it direct to consumer. You're registering for a business, you have to categorize it. What do you do? How are you making your sales? And you're starting to understand numbers a whole lot more. And so I think that's where the brand is right now. And also understanding how to grow it like grassroots, because nobody's going to want to buy something from you. They don't know who you are. If they don't know, like Nipsey, he's a big person that I look up to, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. He had a store in California on Slauson, and he was selling just essentials to the neighborhood, socks, T-shirts,
I remember
stuff like that. And
about that.
It's like, what is your intent behind selling stuff? Is it to help the neighborhood? Because they were saying there was nowhere to get a do-rag that, wasn't Black owned and things like that, where you could conveniently just get the things you need, let alone Black owned. It was just hard to find. So that's kind of what I want to do with like my brand. My brand will be called Moosie, Moosie Basics. And we use the section sign for the S on Moosie, and Basics. It kind of loops into the two words. And I definitely want to start off with just regular white socks. I'll eventually do workout wear. What I recently did was some neck gaiters. Mostly it's just things that I need. And I find out I don't want to just go to the hood store and just buy it. I would rather have something that's, embroidered, or a pattern that comes from Givenchy or something like that. But this is an item I know I'm going to wear every day. So why not embezzle it with these things? It just makes so much more sense to me,
Yeah, especially if you're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And I agree, like being able to articulate your brand and like figure out like, okay, what do I want it to communicate? What do I want people to understand when they see this? And I know personally with Pear, that's been one of my hardest, well, that's been one of the greatest challenges, I would say, over time, of wanting to like really capture what Pear is and communicate it well. I still feel like I ramble over my words, and I'm trying to like, okay, what is our vision? What's our mission? And we've done a lot better with like on our website, communicating that and things like that. But like to actually, because pair isn't like my full-time thing, it's definitely something on the side, to really, when I'm talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm excited about it. Like it's my passion, it's my thing. But I want people to be able to understand and know exactly what this thing is. And it takes time to really, be with that brand, to be with the group, to really wrestle with, okay, what do I want pair to be? And to answer some of those maybe more pointed questions that really don't need a long, elaborate answer. Like you guys know, I like to talk and ramble, and people don't need a ramble answer. They just need something that's straight to the point. And that's something that we've been working on, figuring out logo, adjusting our logo, getting it to be something that is clear and clean and cut and well represents what I want the group to represent. And that's been a journey. That's been a process for me to figure out and discover. And I have no background with the marketing or, figuring that out. And I've had to surround myself with people who know about that and are like, okay, Kristen, no, you need to be doing this. And it's like, oh, okay. And so learning as I go. And so those of you who've been rocking with us from the get, thank you, because I feel like I've been trying to figure things out as I go, and you guys have been there. So anyways, I totally get that. The articulating, the branding, it'll be cool to see the Moosie develop, right? Moosie,
Moosie Basics.
Moosie Basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see how that roll out for you.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing I want to hit on with your passion and just like this direction you're going with creating this and everything that you've mentioned, what have been some of the things that you've learned, maybe some unexpected like challenges or realizations that you've found as you've kind of walked this journey of, figuring out your brand and figuring out what you're trying to do, that you've really had to like embrace in order to make what you are thinking an actual reality and live it and walk it out?
I think taking on the idea of being more than just an employee, being more, when I was managing at our last store, or the last store I was at before I became a lab assistant, I became a manager of some very talented people. And it was really good to be able to manage and try not to piss people off throughout the day. So like my relationships had to change, because at the end of the day, it's like that same person that you might get snappy with, you also have to like hone in their creative skills. And then it helps like the full circle, because it's like, okay, well, if you can somehow direct somebody how to do something on a, scalable thing that's already been put in front of you, and this is the task we have to do day in and day out, then it's like you can take that same talent and then apply it to something that you're trying to make scalable. And so to be open at that level, you have to turn off one emotion to let another one happen, because I think that the easiest thing to do sometimes as a leader is to kind of just serve directions and things like that. And then you go about your business. And I think if you just do that, I think like people have a lot to offer. And I see it with the management that I'm under now, just how willing to adapt to people's, I think it's capitalistic is what you would call it. It's like, I want to say you just let people just kind of show you how they're going to act versus giving them margins to act in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, certainly.
That's really good. Yeah, I like keep being reminded of being a teacher. Like sometimes if I'm starting a new project, like I have an idea, instead of giving my students parameters and like, okay, this is how I feel like it's going to look, let me just make sure to micromanage it. I found whenever I let the kids go free and say like, okay, I want you to make a project about an animal, and I just need you to have, 10 facts about the animal and create something tangible that your students, your classmates can learn from. If I just say that and just say, just be creative.
Yeah.
Honestly, the things that my students have come up with because they were able to just kind of run and go with it instead of being like, okay, wait, no, I can't do this because Miss McAfee said no to this and this and this and this because I'm trying to control it or trying to, get a product that I envision really limits what my students can do. And I think that that's important, like you said, to when you're working with people and you're getting outside of that employee mindset to actually like entrepreneur mindset when you're going to be dealing with a lot of people with different ideas and things like that. If you're able to like embrace everything that comes with being the entrepreneur, meaning you're going to have people who have ideas that are different than yours or whatever, you're trying to like take the good that you and use the good that you see on the different people on your team when maybe you thought of them one way, but really they're like so much more. And I think that that's can be risky, can be scary because you're kind of letting go of some control, but you're also viewing it from a different standpoint that's way more helpful to everyone in the long run. So I think that's cool. Really cool. So where is that taking you now? So you have these ideas of where you're wanting to go and with your business, and you have your podcast and like all this stuff that you're working towards, but I'm sure it's not where you want it to be yet. So what does that look like in your current season right now for you to really walk that out without romanticizing and having an unrealistic idea of what it will be, but walking it out in a way that's very present and very step by step?
I think the biggest thing is just realizing that it's not always going to happen as, I don't want to say rapidly, but as fluid as what you might envision it happening. There's people who I email now. There's people that along the way have mentioned different firms or agencies that specialize in, giving your product ideas, your blueprints to these companies or manufacturers that are overseas. And I think, that was kind of something that I knew of just as like, I would have to be that person, so finding out that there's even like an agency that exists in Overland Park, like office space that is literally like for that, and having the patience to understand how you would have to scale something to even get them to like offer you a quote and then to like get a quote and like, all of those things don't come from, you can't Google that. You can't, ask somebody that. That happened because I showed interest in somebody's product who, came to me to ship it out or whatever it might be. And just a genuine like interest and never even that communication of, hey, well, this is what I'm trying to do. I mean, this person I knew for years before I even got to the point where I could say, hi, like, I'm working on something as well. Could you help me with it? How did you do this? And so that's just for the manufacturing side of things. But you also have to focus on how are you going to progress as an audio engineer? What relationships are you going to keep? I still talk to one of my professors to this day. And it's like one of those things where it's like, how do you hit somebody up that, like had a kid in the process of getting to know them? Where are they at as a parent, like to be able to even take your call on a Sunday afternoon, like, all of those things, and just weighing what you think you should keep, how you can handle being on pins and needles about things like that, because it comes with a lot of anxiety. And what I've learned is just to really just be in the moment. If you find yourself thinking about something that you already did that's not directly related to your project, be it, whatever parking ticket you got earlier that day, or how many other tasks you have ahead of yourself. I mean, always be prepping yourself to be ready for things like that. But literally appreciate your drive, your commute, appreciate everything in between. And then if your phone rings, pick it up and handle that thing. But I think a lot of us get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think that is so true, to be present in the moment and embrace the process, not try to constantly speed things up, because when you do meet that person, who's going to help you, or maybe they can give you like the tools that you need to get you to the next step, you want to be present in the moment and really just show the appreciation of like, yo, thanks for taking the time to like break this down for me, which is one reason why we're doing this series as well. Just like the behind the scenes. I feel like we see people and we're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this and this. And like, wow, he's creating his own brand. And wow, oh my gosh, it's so cool. But it's like, yeah, it is cool, but it's also work. And it's also something that didn't just happen overnight. This took time for you to, take genuine interest in someone and then learn how they did it. And maybe you take some things they did, maybe you leave some things they did, and you make it your own, and it's a whole process. And that takes time. And embrace the time, embrace the process so you truly get what you want. What advice would you give for someone, or what advice have you heard from others, people who you respect and have influenced you regarding this current season in your life?
Well, I actually just listened to this podcast that Justice West has. Do you know Justice?
Dude, yeah. I started it, but we Dylan and I ended up having to go somewhere, so I didn't get to finish it. But I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go back to hear this. Okay, tell me. Yeah,
I may have seen him once, and for me, somebody like I was just talking to Kristen. I'm sorry, and it was wild because I was kind of going through like how I got here, how like what led me to make such a big move from Texas to Kansas City, and the phone calls that I had that led up to that, and some of the things that were kind of like dangled over my head, like dangling a carrot over somebody's head or whatever. And just having to act on those. And a lot of them came true and it worked out in those ways. But I also had to lose other things along the way that probably weren't as guaranteed, be it relationships, like legitimate, like what would you call it? Just like dating and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
One-on-one relationships that I knew weren't as weighted as what opportunity to be in a studio outside of your small ecosystem of Houston hip hop artists or whatever, and some of the like things that might bring. And so listening to like Justice's podcast, he was just talking about how, now I don't know Justice. So to just put it into like perspective, I know of Justice. I know that he attended Church of the Harvest,
which is where Michael and I met, by the way. Shout out Church of the Harvest. Woo.
And as young adults, there's a lot of programs for us there. And I may have seen him once or twice. But here's the thing. When you're in an environment like that, number one, I learned a lot from the youth pastor, just being one-on-one with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't weigh one relationship with another. So just because you hear, okay, well, yeah, this guy is doing like incredible stuff or whatever, it's like you don't shut off just the natural process of getting to know people because you think that this person over here might have something more to offer.
Right.
And so I like the fact that I've yet to meet this dude, and there's probably some like different things that we could relate on that a small percent of people have experienced, especially like in the field of music. And with what he was saying, it just kind of like resonated with me because he was saying that he, for years, learned about music. His parents were musicians.
Right.
And
his mom is phenomenal, a phenomenal singer. My mom grew up with his mom. And so they had that connection. And so when Justice, which growing up, we used to call him AJ. So AJ is how I know him. And I don't know him very well. And the success that he's had being the incredible guitarist and musician that he is, I was going to actually tell you guys his Instagram handle is Justice, JUSTUS.West, WEST. If you want to look him up yourself, he is just crushing it out there with what he's doing. But I haven't heard the podcast.
Yeah.
So I think that what you're saying, though, if I'm understanding correctly, is Justice had, I think you were about to talk about his family and the influences that really fed into where he fed into him, and so was able to produce because it was put in him. He was able to produce, but also the sacrifices that he made to get to where he is now.
Well, all of the above, because I heard a lot of like, I took music theory. I, went to school for music. I think he mentioned a place that I was familiar with that's like, because I started here at Chapman Recording Studio as an intern. And I think that opened me up to like how to act in a studio, how to behave, when to come in, how late to stay. And so to hear Justice say, like, I think he was saying that he took a class at a place that's right near that location. And, but just to completely just always be doing something to get further into the thing. So it makes plenty of sense, because if he's 21, I want to say he said he's married, but to have to have toured with Mac, or he did the Tiny Desk episode, which is something that when I shuffle YouTube comes on often. But that's what I'm getting at, is that you have these people around you that are doing things like this you're well aware of. And like I was at Chapman, that's a place where Tech recorded at. So it's like, you can't process it all at once, and you can't put too much value on one thing versus another, because it's like, dude, I see you doing the stuff with Mac. I see you doing whatever it is, but like, I can't slow down like enough to like actually like even lean in and be like, how can I get to be a part of this, or gain some experience from like the things that he's done? So to have that podcast, it was perfect. I was like, this is my season. This is the right time for this to come out and for me to slow down and listen to it.
And hear it and be able to be encouraged and hear how he did things. And be encouraged with like, okay, he had some sacrifices. He did some things. Like he didn't just come to be where he was and just arrive like, I was just naturally born with these talents. It's like, no, he spent time cultivating, working to be the musician that he is today. And it takes time. And I think that's really great advice to, one, look around at the people who are doing the things that you want to do, or who are in the places of success that you're like, oh, dude, like, how did they get there? Like, how are they that influential or whatever? And be open to listen to them, because maybe because Justice is younger than both of us. And so I feel like sometimes, whether it's ego or pride, we can maybe say like, oh, this guy, like 21, like, okay, he ain't got nothing to say to me, because I've lived more life. I've experienced more.
And I think that's where our brain leads towards, even subconsciously. So when he started going on the whole thing of like, I think he even mentioned he went overseas to some different places. It's just kind of like, that's where I'm leaning towards. Like, I wake up at 6 o'clock every day to get ready to go to the lab. And, before that, I might like hit my dad, like, yo, like, I'm trying to understand how to exchange currency. Like, and I want to go to these fashion houses and stuff like that. And he's like, well, I go to Paris rather than London because of, the currency aspect of things and stuff like that. And when you hear a 21-year-old who has already done these things, obviously, and he's sitting pretty well off of it, because I know how that stuff pays.
Right.
It's like, you can't always you have to change your expectance. Like, what you expect. And you just wouldn't expect that from a 21-year-old. And I never assigned 21 to this dude. Like, I always just was like, he is who he is.
Right. But just to be able to have and maintain an open mind and an open heart to like, okay, dude, it's okay that you're younger than me, but it's also okay that I can learn from you. And then, of course, if you guys do end up crossing paths, I'm sure there's stuff that he can learn from you. And that's the beauty of community, the beauty of relationships, is we learn from each other. And to be so prideful to think like, oh, because you didn't grow up in this family, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you don't have a degree, or you whatever, we kind of label people, you must not be able to teach me anything, or I'm better than you in some regard. And it's like, actually, no. And there's really cool things that even if someone believes something different than you do, or their lifestyle is different, the really cool thing about humanity and about community, like I said, is that there is still something I can get and learn and glean from you, as long as I'm open to it. And that's, I think, how God intended it to be. He didn't want us all to be the same. He would have made us the same if he wanted us to all be the same.
No, that's deep.
And so the way we think and how we process through things and whatever, like it's to our benefit that we
Mhm.
have the differences within each other.
Mhm.
So regardless of all the differences, there is something cool that we can grow and learn from each
Yeah.
other, which I think is great. And so the last thing I know, you talked about when we were planning off the recording, is we wanted to talk about community and how we kind of already hit on it a little bit,
Mhm.
but how community can be so impactful in moving us along the current that we want to head towards our targets. And you talked about how people in your world, when you've articulated or spoke about your passion or whatever you're working on, you've had people who have totally come alongside you, people from out of the woodworks popping up and being like, yo, that's chill. I get behind that. I'm with you with that. What did that look like for you as far as getting the support that you have now, which you're not even doing this full time. Like you still have your 9 to 5 and who knows where you'll go. But what does it look like for you to, maybe ask for support or to put yourself out there? Like, is that scary?
I think
what does that look like for you?
I think it looks like being in the right place at the right time, but you can't be in the right place at the right time if you're not always presenting the idea of who you are. Because when you start to realize that you're seeing success or the ball keeps rolling for the things that, like I was trying to explain how it's difficult to ever tell people like how I do like audio engineering, because to a lot of people that doesn't like translate very well to paper. And so I think I have to just kind of dumb it down and like, oh, I'm an electrician, like some sort, like when it comes to audio electronics and those different aspects of how deep the audio world really is. You have to kind of like just dumb it down or water it down for people. And the ecosystem of like having these people around you just looks like being on all the time. So I can't leave the house anymore without having on the Yeezys that I just bought that I know I'm only going to wear twice. Like, why not wear them now to the trip to the grocery store? Because that's who you are. Like you weren't trying to be cool. You weren't trying to like, but like you appreciate finer things. You are up looking into these things that are limited or whatever, and there's power in that. And I think a lot of times we get shifted into thinking that, oh, maybe I'm too flamboyant, or maybe this isn't exactly who I think I am. But you go back and you look at, like, I think it's Piaget, like how they talk about the pre-operational stage, the concrete development stage, and all these different stages. That carries on until adulthood. So if you graduated high school and, whatever your mindset was in high school, like I was big into reggae, I was big into like Rastafari stuff, like, you know what I mean? I'm still that guy. Like, yeah, I'm Christian. Yeah, I'm this. I understood that there wasn't, any merit to trying to like change up your religion and stuff like that, just based off of how you were raised. But, after a while, you got to be like, that was kind of a confusing patch of life, but here I am. Like, I've got dreads down in my butt now. Like, I'm very much that person. And you have to push that forward because other people are picking up on that. And you can't ever take a day off from being that thing that you are. So I found myself now from that experience, like with the Yeezys, that's a legitimate experience I had. I walk into Walmart one day. I just got it was like the triple whites, and I just wanted to wear them, just see what the fit was like. And I'm in like the very back, and a fashion designer in Kansas City who now I've done multiple projects with. He's been on my podcast.
Cool.
It was somebody who just looked at those shoes. But if I would have just had on the Birkenstocks that I wear around the house that day, or anything that was like dumbed down versus who I really am, like I am the guy that has to put on a shirt with the team, like before I go out, like,
right.
I would be missing these opportunities that you don't even know are like right under your nose.
Yeah, that's so good. And to embrace who you are instead of trying to camouflage and be like somebody else. Like everyone else is taken. And I think there's like a quote like that. Everyone else is taken, so you just got to be you. Then like own you, embrace you, and even cultivate. Become the best version of yourself.
Cultivating is key, because that's the thing. I think that, you know, a lot of times we stumble on like, oh wow, like I finally am this thing that I've been working so hard to be. Like for me, Yeezys was a difficult thing to like grasp. I didn't understand the whole idea of finding multiple sites. I had to like turn on my notifications on Twitter. Like that took work, like legitimately, because I started flipping them and selling them, stuff like that. But that's the cultivation process. And then where I'm at now, like I flipped all the Yeezys I had. Like I'd stopped wearing them and then just would buy them to resell and stuff like that. And I realized how much, you know, credit I could, you know, use at one time to like cop these things. And now I'm applying like the same method towards like gear that I need to grow my like audio business and stuff like that. So it's definitely a cultivation process based off of these niches that we all have.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So good. So good. And learning how to create and grow and be responsible and adult and like balance all of that can be really challenging. But whenever you can embrace who you are and walk with the Yeezys to Walmart and just totally embody it, like it's like you said, it's crazy the different opportunities that will present themselves, which will propel you forward to where you're trying to go. So that's good. That is good. Listen, how can people follow you, stay in the loop on what you're doing? Sounds like you're doing a lot as you guys get catch. So he's probably going to have, I'm sure, a lot of things rolling out as he continues to work on them. How can people get in contact with you?
So you can actually look at my Instagram right now. I think that's the best handle out there for understanding what it is that I do. Link in bio, totally. So go to @Midwest, regular spelling, and Moosie. That's my nickname, Moosie. And if you go down to the link in bio, at the moment, I have like 3 different links. One for my style concierge service that I'm launching. I did a bunch of test shoots last year, and some still need to be uploaded to the website. But there's a link there where you can actually book a concierge service with me. And what that is you come up with a budget. Mine starts at $150. Because I take out like 34% of that, and the remainder is your budget that you use to actually buy things. So I've got like a green blazer behind me right now.
Yeah.
I'm always in these
came in styling
prime locations. Yeah,
totally.
And I don't think a lot of people come across these things. So I just have an outlet to more fashion than what I think most people have time for. And if you book me for, say, you have a wedding or something coming up, I can expedite the process of matching different hues and patterns for you.
Cool.
Yeah, it would take only a minimal amount, and then the rest is left for you to budget. And it gets shipped to your house or dropped off if it's something like that. But there's other links for other things I'm doing, like the podcast.
Yeah.
All in the link in bio.
Totally. Yeah. And you guys know that I put all my guests on in the description. That kind of leads up to telling you about this episode. You'll see his Instagram handle there. So be sure to show him some love, connect with him, share. If you know someone who's interested in that service, like totally point them his direction, because he's good at what he does. He's good at what he does. And every bit of support, like we're all in this together, right? So figuring out what we're doing and the different points of success that we are experiencing in our current seasons of life, that's a win. So being able to support and help each other is totally what Pair's all about. And
totally.
What
like, I'm going to be real with y'all. Like, I am so approachable. You know, if anybody watches this and you do any sort of pre-production, post-production, because everything I do is in-house, graphic designers, I'd rather go through somebody that came across me on a platform like this instead of booking a gig on Fiverr. And you're always welcome to any of the public spaces I have. I do have guests over, even in the private spaces where I do my podcast. But my weekend looks like editing. Like I booked all my editing this week in our Mac lab at the university, and for the weekend, you know what I'm saying? Like my Sunday night is going to be spent doing editing. My Monday night is going to be spent doing editing. And I think that ecosystem that we were talking about needs to be more structured, because there's no reason why I'm doing something so, niche, like whether it's working Adobe Premiere or whatever, where I can't have somebody that's literally like in the same room. We could be making an entourage like Birdman, Cash Money Records here, but we're just not connected,
Yeah, totally. And Pair is a bridge. Like that's what I've always envisioned Pair to be, a bridge where people can connect with each other, where we can cultivate growth within each other and really just challenge each other and encourage each other to, stay on the journey, keep working, keep making sacrifices, keep on living life fearlessly to be all that we feel like we are created to be and want to accomplish. And so thanks so much, Michael, for being with us.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and you guys be in the loop with what we're doing. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at pair.kc. Check out our events that are coming up via our website, www.mypaircommunity.com. We have our awesome summer workshops that'll be happening in July. You don't want to miss those, as well as our monthly Connect meetings where we just come together once a month and just have a great time, cultivate growth, get to know new people, and figure out more tools and tips to help us get to the places where we're trying to go. So stay in the loop. We appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day. And always remember to live fair.